Hey everybody, Motorpoet 59 here. Uh, I was doing some research on some stock stuff and ended up going down a rabbit hole of other news events that will have some sort of effect on the market, some negative, some positive, some flat, whatever. I just kept getting into more and more articles and clicking on more and more links. And uh, one of them was about uh, the COP26 summit that just ended in uh, Scotland. I almost said I almost said Ireland. Thanks a lot, Obama. uh, I don't even I don't know even know if any of you saw the Oh Boy Obama the Great video I made making fun of him for that. But anyway, um, there is a lot that I want to go over here. I'm going to try not to make this very long for all 15 of you that might watch this. But please, I know that I know this channel doesn't get a lot of views, but if you see this, please share it with your friends, especially if you have liberal friends, because these are things these people don't know. These are things that the media do not talk about. This was off of a website called Market Watch by a uh, this was off of a website called almost all of this off a website called Market Watch. Uh, this is, let's see, actually this one, by the time I got back around, this is E-Trade Financial Quotes and Research. And I got into this, Warren, through the rabbit hole of Market Watch. I'm finding out since I've started investing and doing research on different markets and different stocks and stuff, that some of the best and most accurate news that I've seen in a long, long time comes from these websites. And Market Watch and Market Edge, they all have magazines too. I think it sounds like they try to sell me some sometimes. Uh, but the news is objective politically. It is not objective financially. This is about trying to uh, be aware of things that are going on, whatever they are, whatever side of the aisle they're happening on. And these articles are about how to make those things work the best for you. So they don't care if it's a Democrat or a Republican bill. All they care about is how is the market going to react to it. And that's the rabbit hole I went down today. I'm going to have to put on my glasses here, which reflect in the light, I know. But a couple of the things, I'm certainly not going to go over this entire thing here. But just hit a couple of these things. This is Market Watch 5 Takeaways from the COP26 Climate Summit Investors Need to Know. That was the name of this article. And the one thing, I just highlighted a couple of things, I'll hit those. They estimate a doubling of annual investment in the global energy system alone of $5 trillion each year over the next 30 years, or approximately twice the current, or approximately 2 times the current global GDP, just on this energy stuff. That is not going to happen. They're never going to spend that much money. It's like, I remember when Live Aid is a great example back in the days before you had bank cards and stuff like that. And you if you wanted to donate to that, you had to call these numbers and pledge whatever you wanted to pledge for the AIDS thing, and for the concert and the charity. And I don't remember the numbers, but what was pledged as opposed to what actually came in was a vastly different number, millions of dollars of difference. When you get caught up in all that, because I actually called and donated, I actually sent a check. I thought it was really cool, and I think I sent like $5 or $10 or something like that. But it's easy to get caught up in the emotion of something like that, just like it is for these people who are representing these the countries that showed up to the COP26 in Scotland, to get caught up in everything that's going on, and everybody wants to do things. Hey, I'm all for making the air better, and I'm all for clean water and all that. Just because I'm a Republican doesn't mean I think we should ruin everything, but I don't think we should go overboard either with all these pledges and promises. And that's what these are. They're pledges and promises, and no one is going to come up with that kind of money. That's just not going to happen. The next thing, the Conference of Parties, COP26, the agreement for the COP26 says that in order to achieve the 2015 Paris Accords ambitious goal of capping global warming at 1.5 degrees Celsius or 2.7 degrees Fahrenheit by the end of the century, compared with pre-industrial times, countries will need to make rapid, deep, and sustained reductions in global greenhouse gas emissions, including reducing global carbon dioxide emissions by 45% by 2030, relative to the 2010 level, and to net zero around 2050, as well as deep reductions in other greenhouse gases. That is not going to happen. Almost half the emissions gone in what's almost 2022 in 8 years. Hey man, this ain't NASA. This ain't Kennedy making a promise to go to the moon and having the GDP and the industrial machine and all the brains in the United States be able to work on a single project that took 9 years to come to fruition when they landed Apollo 11 on the moon. This is trying to get everybody in the world, all these countries who don't like each other, all these countries who look at things completely different, countries that are wealthy, countries that are poor, and try to get everybody on board to do this, to make this happen. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. It's just not. Let's see. There are the right rules in place to ensure accountability and rigor in the system, said Helen Mountford, Vice President, Climate and Economics with the World Resources Institute, and a push to come back next year with ambition for their 2030 targets. We'll see about that. I'm sure that the United States will be there with rigor. Joe Biden may have a rigor mortis by then, but they'll send some other cupcake. What's her name? Kamala Harris. I don't know why I couldn't think of that. Or somebody will be sent in their stead. The thing about this is this is all a United Nations thing. These COPs, there's no laws involving this. There's no court. There's nobody to ensure accountability. There's no way if one of these countries decides to not do what they said they'd do or keep up with their pledge, there's no way to punish them. There's just no way to do it. And to think that something like that it can be forced on countries is just It's ridiculous. And the reason that the United States was there was so the rest of the people who were there can demand that we pay the bulk of this money that they're talking about. And as long as the Democrats who are so and as long as the Democrats who are so and as long as the Democrats who are so indebted to the environmental lobby, they're going to be there and they're going to be making their promises to keep sucking up to the environmental lobby, and we're going to get screwed by these other countries that don't pay, and all this money we end up pouring out, just like it has all the money we've thrown into this in the past in these G summits. That money has done nothing. It's done nothing. These other countries have made virtually no progress in curbing their emissions. A few of them have, but most of them haven't. The countries, I had a list of who all was here. But I think what's more important is who wasn't here. Who wasn't here? Russia wasn't here. Putin told them to pound sand. China wasn't here. Their president or premier or whatever the hell they call their honcho over there now didn't show up and sent no representatives for China, but agreed to do some video conferencing and said that they would be willing to work with America. On what was never specified, nor was to what extent they would be willing to help. North Korea wasn't there because North Korea doesn't have any emissions because they have no industry because they're a third world dump. So they weren't there. Neither were Iran, South Africa, Japan, Mexico, or Brazil. Brazil, Mexico, and Japan are certainly big emissions countries. I don't know so much about South Africa or Iran. I don't know what kind of emissions issues they have. Maybe they don't have that many, and so they said, "Why do we want to get involved?" But Japan, yeah, they have a whole bunch of people that live in a little small space and drive lots of cars, and Japan has a lot of industry. Mexico is one of the most polluted countries on the planet. Mexico City is the most polluted large city in the world by far. It's insane. I know that China has Beijing and some of these other big cities that are horribly polluted, and I don't think China is serious about getting involved in this. I think that they just want the world to see that they played. They just didn't come to play. Since when has China been trustworthy? When was the last time China kept their word about anything? The only thing that I'm aware of that they've kept their word of over the last 20 years is that they were going to become more and more in control of pieces of America's economy. I don't know how much of our economy that China is directly linked with now. You hear people say, "Oh, they own half our economy." Oh, no, they don't. But if they even own a tenth of it, that's too much. We should not be giving our economy away to other countries. Donald Trump was in the midst of trying to fix that. He was in the midst of trying to get jobs back in America and get our reliance on foreign products under control. The Democrats did not like that. You union people, you think that the Democrats want your jobs to stay in America? They do not. It's the last thing they want because it doesn't pay to have those jobs in America. There's not enough profit in it. There's not enough tax revenue. They can make a lot more off the tariffs than they can off tax revenue off you and the companies that you work for. Your jobs are a lot more profitable to the Democrats, to the liberals, a lot more profitable if they're overseas. Never forget that. Next time you go to vote, instead of listening to your local chairman or union griever or reading your company magazine, your union magazine, you need to do a little research like I just did. I spent about 2 hours researching this stuff. That's it, 2 hours. Didn't take me long at all. I mean, maybe you don't want to put down your football game or your baseball game or your video game or something long enough to actually use your brain to do something. And so many of you seem to be perfectly willing to let your union tell you what is right and what you ought to do, rather than you getting out something, getting on your computer, Googling some things. It doesn't even have to be on MeWe or DuckDuck. Google isn't hiding this stuff from anybody. You go to Google, I go to Google, and I've never not been able to find quite a few articles about what I'm looking for. And they're from different sources on different sides of the aisle. Don't believe everything you hear about the evil Google. Not that I'm a big supporter of them. They just have a great search engine. One of the things, some of the things that they said that they didn't accomplish at the COP26 were, let's see here, coal. Everybody seemed to think that when this was over, everybody was going to rush home and shut down all their coal mines, shut down all their coal-fired facilities, power plants, anything that ran on coal. Everybody was just going to turn it off. There we go. Just like that. That didn't happen. Coal got a reprieve, mostly in countries that mostly rely on coal. There are a lot of countries around the world that coal is their only real form of energy. They can't afford nuclear. They can't afford to build nuclear plants. They don't have much natural gas or oil deposits or ties with countries from whom they can get those things at a reasonable price. So they use coal, and there's really no way to overcome that. And if they would have pushed that in this conference, even though most of those countries weren't here, then they would have just bailed out and just said, whatever, you guys pound sand, which is probably what they'll say anyway. Here we go. Finance. Something that didn't get accomplished here. Who's going to pay for all this stuff, and how in the world are they going to pay for it? Let's see. I hate wearing these glasses. I can't see without them, so I don't hate wearing them, but I hate wearing them for your sake. Who gets to pay for this? For the countries that can't, because a lot of these countries that are on board with all this don't have any money. They can't come up with, we talked about earlier, they can't come up with the $5 trillion a year, and the other infrastructure costs, and it's convoluted. It really is. But if history is any indicator where all this stuff is concerned about, where a big chunk of this money is coming, it's going to be from America. And where does American money come from? Me and you. It comes from our taxes. The government can't just print up money and give it to these people and have it be worth anything. It has to be backed up by revenue, and that revenue comes from us. So this is part of another lie that was told about the video that I just did on taxes. This is another tax. China has made no financial commitments as of yet. All they've done is talk, so it's all a paper trail right now. And it doesn't matter, because the United States and some of the other big countries that are involved in this, even though there really aren't very many other big countries involved in it, can say, China, you said you do this, and you said you do that, and we're going to hold you accountable, and China's going to go, so what, do you want to have a war over it? And we're going to go, no, we don't want to have a war over it. It's okay. We'll see if there's some way we can come up with your half. That's what'll happen. And who comes up with that half? Me and you. Me and you. Um, the numbers we're talking about, where these smaller countries are concerned, 70, this is what they're asking for, telling us that they're going to have to do. And this isn't just the 5 trillion per year thing. That involves new infrastructure for wind and green energy and things like that. It involves a lot of things. But for these other countries, they have no infrastructure at all. They don't have any windmills. They don't have any solar arrays. They don't have these things. And they have lots of cleanup that needs to be done because of the environmental damage that's been done over the years. And we're talking, let's just be honest, we're talking about the third world countries in Eastern Europe and some of them in Central America. I'm sure it didn't list who they were. But they're talking $70 billion per country per year. And that is expected to double by 2030 and has no end date. It's incredible. It's just absolutely incredible that there are people who think this stuff is going to work. They think that it's affordable. It's not affordable. It's not affordable. Even if almost every country were as wealthy as the United States, it still wouldn't be affordable. It's asking too much of the economy. And right now, in case you didn't notice, we have the highest inflation in over 30 years. This will only make that worse. In the video I just did on taxes, I talk about how raising taxes is going to make it worse. The Democrats don't care. And remember, so like I said, this isn't Joe Biden. They sent Joe Biden because who cares? They don't care who they sent to this thing. It doesn't matter. All they got to do is get up there and go, okay, 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 okay. And that's pretty much what he did. And they don't care. They don't care if inflation goes through the roof. They didn't care in the 70s. For all you millennials and all you Gen Xers who don't remember any of that, you're too young. It was terrible. Inflation was horrible in the 70s. It ruined our economy. If it weren't for Reagan's voodoo economics, there's no telling what we would have certainly had a depression that began in the mid 80s. And he saved us from that by allowing the market to reassert itself and stop blowing all of our money on government programs that weren't working. This isn't even a government program. That's what makes me sick about this. This is a United Nations thing. This is a global thing. We don't have to answer to the world. They certainly never answer to us. We've saved Europe twice. We have saved Europe twice in the 20th century. They should answer to us, but they don't. Here we are answering to them. I say next time that somebody decides they're going to take over Europe, we just let them do it. Stay here at home, start drilling for all oil, make a deal with the Arabs, and tell them that when the fighting's all done, let's talk. Because we weren't involved in this stuff. If somebody tries to attack them, we go there and say, hey, when this is all done, this oil's going to be ours too. Stay away from here. We'll kick your asses. COP26. Now you know why Donald Trump didn't go. Now you know why George H.W. Bush didn't go to these G summits. Because they're a joke. This is the kind of stuff. You know, one of the keynote speakers there was Greta Thunberg. She's a kid. She's not highly educated. She's just a kid. I have daughters who are just as smart as her. And nobody listens to them when they say, how dare you? I don't know. I believe that all this climate crap right here is being shoved down the world's throat at a much too rapid rate. Hey, we got to start moving towards that, in that direction at some point. And I know that the United States already has. We've been moving in that direction since the 70s, since the Nixon administration enacted the EPA. And we've got a lot of our things under control, and we do real good. We don't have these big emission and pollution problems that we did prior to that. Not one other country in the world has given as much attention to the problems of their environment as America has. But we're still being called the bad guy when all this happened. It's all still our fault. And I did a video about that a while back. It's all America's fault. It's not all our fault. We're willing to help, and I really don't have a problem helping as long as I know other people are going to do their part. That's why Trump and Bush didn't get involved in this, because they knew those people wouldn't follow through, and they're not going to follow through with this. They're not going to do it. You may have some of these little countries that are Sweden and some of these little tiny countries that have money and have a plan. But Sweden is what, a fifth the size of the continental United States, and has about 2% of the population. It's a lot easier to talk out your ass when you're looking at those numbers than it is to talk when you're talking about a country the size of America with the population America has and the problems it already faces. So what do you think about all this? Let me know in the comments below. Shoot me an email at motorpoet59@gmail.com. Like, share, subscribe. Click on the bell if you want to be notified of future content. We'll see you all later. Cats.